Chapter 6 Hunt for the Fugrah. By daybreak, the hunting party had left Old Sister's village and set off into the woods. Flint had learned that the beast had been seen in the northern forest the previous night. The U-boat took point in the hunt and had just disappeared into undergrowth, leaving the men to wait behind. Jug and Flint were crouched down in front of the Knox and motioned for everyone to keep low and quiet. The light of the left veils penetrated the dark canopy of ancient trees, and the thick mist clung to the ground like a spider's web, turning everything into blurred shadows. Any man worth his salt with a bow or spear had been ordered to take positions at the front and back of the group. The Red Pines were adept hunters and were in these positions, leaving the valley rain and the lumber in the centre of the group unhappy. Old Sister had not allowed any of her people to join the hunt. Knox cleaned his dagger with a handful of moss once more. Tappet nudged his hip anxiously, patted her head and said, "U-boat reappeared out of the shallows then. This way, there's a trail upstream you can use to get through these brambles. Good work, Bo. You take point. Broken in half. You flank Bo. If the beast appears, he'll need your spears." The two red pine warriors nodded and crept silently behind Bo. The rest of the group followed after them, the three men's outlines lingering on the edge of the mist. They came to a steep decline into a narrow dried stream which snaked its way through the trees and thick undergrowth. The ground sloped downwards, and at the river's end they found a circle of stones and an earth mound. Some were piled on top of each other, others had collapsed over time, with stones strewn down the hill and before the stream clipped. Most of the stones were covered with moss and the usual etched runes. A hornbeard had called dolmens. Flint gave them the signal not to touch anything. At the centre of the circle they found bits and pieces of rags and dried blood. It seemed that this was the place Flint had been searching for, where one of the hunters' bodies had been found. Knox could slowly imagine what state it had been found in if it had left such an abundance of blood. Painted skulls were placed atop of some of the stones, past sacrifices to some forgotten old god. The sinister presence of the site made the group uncomfortable. "What do you think, Bo?" Flint asked. "Old blood. Be hard to follow the trail if there was one. Wait." He crouched and pushed around some leaves, picked up a piece of rope and crawled after it. Bo left the dolmens, crept down the hill, and picked up the ragged end of the rope that had bits and pieces of clothing still clinging to it. "Damn it, that end." "We should break up into groups, be quicker." Grace sat, the tin man from the valley rain, clammed up. Blue Moon nodded his agreement. "Well, that's not your fucking decision, is it?" growled Jug. "You boys just keep nice and quiet like a good pack of mutts." "What do you say, fat man?" growled one of the other valley rain men. "What, are you deaf?" "Shut it, all of you." "Yes, Bo." Jug's face was red. He looked at Flint. "Why do we need these fools? We should send them on ahead of us, let them get eaten by the beast." "Hornbeard told us to take them, that's that." Jug cursed as he walked past Flint, still muttering under his breath, and he kicked the tree, then again harder. Something began to rustle in the trees. Before Jug had time to look up, a dark object tumbled down from a branch. Knox watched as it fell, a black blur with a long tail, and just as it was about to land on Jug, the tail end caught on the branch and the object bounced away from the startled man. It bobbled there, swinging back and forth, and Knox realised that the tail hadn't been a tail at all, but a rope. And at its end was a highly decomposed and bloated body of a young man. Maggots writhed and dripped down onto Jug's white face, clinging to the now goods on display. The men had all drawn their weapons ready to spear an arrow, but the man was going to do them any harm. The eyes had been gouged from his head, throat ripped out, and you could see the neck bone poking through. The worst of all, worse than the entrails hanging loosely from his stomach, the grey heels, was his arms and legs. They were gone. Each limb had been gnawed off by some large animal, the fang marks easily visible from where Knox was standing. "God of death and destruction," breathed Bo. "This is the work of a Fugrah," one of the red pine men at the back of the group said, panic brimming in his voice. "We need to get out of here." "Quiet," hissed Flint. They stared into the mist. The hairs on the back of Knox's arms were stood on end. In the distance, something began rustling through the trees, scraping against bark and snapping twigs and branches as it moved. It sounded large. The men readied their spears and arrows. Flint motioned for him to form a line. Knox slid out his knife and stood between Bo and Jug. His heart was thumping in his ears. The rustling stopped, and they waited. His mouth was dry, and he needed to take a piss. Gods, why hadn't he stayed in the mountains? "Easy, men," said Flint. They jumped and spun around as the now the noise was coming from the other direction. "Get to the stones," signalled Flint, and they crept back up the hill, just making it to the dolmens, and something came rushing into the mist towards them, a smeared blur, streaking up the hill. The men loosed their arrows, but each went wide, even bows, and it came rushing at the men. Spears went next, but impaled themselves into the mud or tree, and the beast leaped over a fallen stone, using it to spring higher, and landed on one of the red pine men, hit the ground, rolled, and before anyone could make a move for the beast, it was back up and rushing down the hill, way into the mist. Gods, it was big. Blood sprayed after it, as if it were bleeding, but Knox saw it was the man's headless body that was springing. It writhed around on the ground, flailing its arms, sticking its fingernails deep into the dirt and kicking its feet. The men watched pale-faced, and the nearest man to the body had shielded himself from the rain of blood. After it, shouted Flint. They ran after the beast, down the hill. Screams came from behind them. Knox looked back and saw one of the Valley Rain men being hauled away into the mist by the Fugrah. "It's behind us," screamed half-half. "Make it ring," quickly done as Flint ordered. Each man formed back to back, each muttering curses as the screams went silent. "It's more to our fight, it's more to our fight," Grey Sap was muttering to himself. "There!" The shadow stirred in the mist and broke and flung his axe at it. "Die, you fucker!" But the shadow had moved well before the axe even reached the mist and tumbled away into empty air harmlessly. "Plan, Flint," said Jug. "Don't die," said Flint. He motioned for the men to crouch. "Surely it's for you to say. You're lean as a twig. Look at the meat on me, though," said Jug before taking a swig of his jug. "We need to get back to the dolmens. This mist will be the death of us," said Bo. The men agreed and decided to go back to the hill, watching every direction, which was slow going but safe. Through thick ferns and thickets of weeds they struggled, eventually retracing their steps until the dolmen circle stood above them once again. When they climbed the hill, they found the Valley Rain man's body impaled on a thick branch just above the circle in a tree. They took up positions around the circle when the light grew dim. The sun abandoned them, and they were left in the forest to the mercy of the Fugrah. The night was long, but the sun rose above the trees and chased away most of the mist. Flint led them through the forest, headed east. 2 Valley Rain men had disappeared during the night. Most of the men had said to leave them in the woods, but Blue Moon looked like he would cut the throat of any man who took the first step. Flint was having none of it, saying that Hornbeard had trusted them with their safety and he had to find them and bring them. The track stopped suddenly. "Which way, Bo?" asked Flint. After some searching they found a dagger to the south, and not long after that they came to the mouth of a cave. Bones were scattered around the entrance. Not all were animal. "No way am I going in there," said Jug. "You'll fucking go in there if I tell you to go in there," growled Flint. "And I'm telling you to. Actually, Joe, you can take a pint." "Come on, big guy." Bo slapped Jug's belly. "Drink some of your magic potion and fight the Fugrah." "That's just the problem, isn't it?" Jug tipped his jug upside down and not a drop dripped. Just then a scream came from outside of the cave. "Don't matter. We're going in. Now." Flint walked into the cave without looking back. Blue Moon was close behind and Bo lit a torch and followed him. Knox followed the northerner into the inky black. The place reeked of sour meat and death. Bones crunched under Knox's boots. The rest of the group followed, and there weren't many now. Besides Flint, Bo, Jug and Blue Moon, there were only half-half and Broken left in the red pines, along with the tall one with the blue eyes who never said anything. Broken said to call that one the main, but spoke no more of it. Of course, Knox himself was there, not one bit out of place among these hardened warriors, and how much good would he do up against a beast like the Fugrah? And why was he thinking all of this now? Shouldn't he be devising a plan of attack, or escape? He'd be a little more than a pick to clean the fucker's fangs with. Think he would be coming face to face with this? Oh, by the gods, he didn't want to be here. "Easy," Flint whispered, as they entered into a wide cavern. The place was a nightmare. The screams came from deep inside the cave. They echoed off the slimy walls. Bones covering the floor reflected the light from the torch, turning the entire place into a nest of yellow-orangey snakes. Moss clung to the walls, slimy and dark with the gods knew what. Knox saw a finger bone pointing accusingly at him from a crevice, and Howard forced himself to look away from the walls. He followed the men to a rock pool, where some tree trunks had been bound together by dark vine, and bones and other odd-looking instruments clung from them. Is that what I think it is?" muttered Broken. "Don't look at it, boy," growled Jug. "This is dark magic here, Flint. We need to move quickly." "Aye," agreed Bo. "Help!" a voice called from deep within the cave. Blue Moon went to run towards it, but Flint held out an arm, stopping him. "That's not your friend anymore. They belong to the Fugrah now. We need to get this bastard." Half-half was watching their back, clutching his spear like a lover. The man was beside him, quite wide-eyed. "We'll get this bastard. Don't you worry your blue balls, Moon." "Any plans, Flint?" Jug asked. "Stay behind me and don't get lost." Flint began moving towards one of the many tunnels at the back of the cavern. Blue Moon followed, as did they all. They inched along, skirting the altar like trunks covered with dozens of human waste. Bows and spears were sheathed, and now each man had axe, knife, or sword. If any fighting was to be done, it would be close at hand. The air became fouler the deeper they went, if that could be possible. The screams grew closer. Knox knew that voice, not Grey Sap's, but the other man's, Cliff. Damned screams gave him the chills. No human could make those kind of sounds. He soothed Tappa, or more correctly the wolf soothed him. She nudged into him, running her mask along his arm for comfort. "Why hadn't he stayed in the mountains?" The tunnel grew narrow, and they went one by one into the darkness. The torchlight was only noise now sputtering. The scream stopped. Wind began to blow through the tunnel. Knox had to blink, thinking he was imagining it. But no, there it was again. Cool wind kissed his face, making his hair stir. The torch Bo was carrying waver and almost die. By the gods, Knox heard Flint whisper. They entered onto a ledge. The ledge ran around a wide rock pool. There in the midst of it, impaled or bound against these sharp rock columns, were dozens of skeletons. On one a form writhed and kicked its legs in silence. Grey Sap's ribs had been ripped out from his chest, his organs, heart, lungs, all could be seen. Below it, a creature that looked covered in metallic feathers licked at these. It turned then, thin slits of yellow for its eyes stared at them from inside that hideous form of darkness. Bo was the first to act. He flung his axe at the beast, which leapt out of the way and vanished between the columns. Put him out of his misery, Flint ordered Bo, pointing at Grey Sap. Bo knocked an arrow, and Knox watched as Grey Sap's bulging eyes looked back at them, before the arrow took him in the heart. His head drooped. Blue Moon roared, then, making Knox near drop his dagger. The giant of a man went storming after the Fugrah, sending the dark and rancid water splashing up in his wake. After him, someone yelled, and they were all racing toward columns. Tap bounded off in front of Knox, and his feet felt like they were moving by their own accord. Two long and heavy lumps of meat dangling at the end of his body. Over there, shouted half-half. Knox just saw the shadow lingering beyond the columns, before it came at them in a blur of fangs and fearlessness. Blue Moon brought his great war axe down in a mighty swing, but the blade bit into empty space from naught but rock where the beast had just been. The Fugrah rolled through the water, to back onto its feet, swerving between the columns. The tall red pine warrior in the main brought up a shield just in time when the beast shattered it instead of the warrior's helmet and skull, and the man went sprawling to the floor. Surround it, said Flint. Flint ran under the columns. The beast hissed back at them, and Knox saw it clearly now as it crawled up a column, its long claws wrapping around the rock. A damn mountainous, spiky bastard of a beast is all Knox could think of. Yeah! Half-half sent his spear darting through the air, but the beast lashed out with its long claws, cutting the spear's haft and sending the head tumbling harmlessly against its many layers of what he could only imagine was rock. Aimed for its breast. It seemed vulnerable there. Bo aimed his next arrow. Broken, give it your spear. The man did, and when the beast snatched out and cut it from the air as well, Bo sent his arrow twirling through the air. Knox saw it hit below the beast's arm, and it thudded into flesh. Knox roared it when the others screamed their hatred, and a storm at it. Blue Moon came at it with Broken and half-half from the left, Knox and the rest to the right of it. The beast had nowhere to run, and knew it, because it pounced off of the column, stretching out his sinewy arms and sharp claws, with the gods it was coming for him. Knox's foot slipped then, and he hit the floor, and that was lucky, because the damn thing slammed against his shoulder, where his head would have been a breath ago. Knox shoved the dagger up, not looking, but shoving with all his might. He was flattened against the ground. The dagger's point jarred against something solid, while he followed through just as if fucker's claws were biting into his flesh all the deeper. The rest of the men were all around him now. The weight of the thing was crushing him. You heard Tappa, growling and biting and snarling. Axes thudded into it, swords, and the Fugrah raised his head and let out a mighty roar. Knox screamed at it, challenging the bastard. By the gods, if he was going to die, then he was taking this fucker with him. He rammed the knife in again and again. Dark blood splashed and frothed down his arm, his face, and it burned into his eyes. But he kept stabbing, even when the thing's claws had stopped digging into him, and his teeth had stopped chomping on his arm. He felt the dead weight settle on him, and nothing of the world beyond the Fugrah could he hear. Not the sound of his wolf, nor his companions. He felt hands then and words, but he made no sense of them. He was in the mountains now. That was all. He was home.